Hi everyone, so we're going to jump around a little bit on our notes today. In your notes booklet you had types of respiration next, but we are going to go to lungs and diaphragm demo. So that is this page. It's lungs and diaphragm at work. So I'll get you to fill this in today. And so we're going to look at these two diagrams to help us understand what we're talking about when it comes to the lungs and how the diaphragm impacts the lungs. So looking at this guy, he is an inspiration and here is an expiration. So this is a breathing in and this is breathing out. So you can see these arrows. I want you to fill in these arrows from your notes. They're a little bit hard to read. So right here, I've left this one filled in for you. On an inspiration, so when you're breathing in, your diaphragm contracts and flattens. So it is opening up this thoracic space for you. When you are having an expiration or breathing out, the diaphragm the diaphragm relaxes into this inverted U shape. So here on our diagrams, this first space says the thoracic cavity expands. So on an inspiration, as the diaphragm contracts and flattens, this space gets bigger. Okay, so our external intercostal muscles also contract, and this is just pointing at the diaphragm. So label that diaphragm for yourself. Now, if we're looking at an expiration, we can see our diaphragm is relaxing, creating this big inverted U. We notice that this space is way smaller than it was over here. So again, when the diaphragm contracts, it creates more space and the thoracic cavity expands. And that's why air rushes in, okay? So here, when the diaphragm relaxes, it creates this inverted U, much smaller space, so air is forced out. So if we look here, just to help you understand it a little bit better, on an inspiration, there's an area of, don't mind my writing here, of high pressure outside of the body. We're just going to put high press because that's too hard for me to write. Okay, so this is an area of high pressure. As the diaphragm contracts, it opens this space up, creating an area of low pressure. Okay, so we know that anytime there's an area of high pressure and an area of low pressure, everything moves from high to low pressure. Okay, so that's why we have air rushing in. As that diaphragm contracts and opens up this space, there's less pressure because there was less air now in this space, so new air rushes in to fill that space. Okay? So the opposite happens when the diaphragm relaxes. The diaphragm contracts all the air in this thoracic cavity, which creates an area of high. I'm sure you can hear the clicking of my mouse, which is really annoying. I guess it's my trackpad, so sorry about that. But we have an area of high pressure here. Again, all the air is now being compressed because this diaphragm is relaxing and there's much less space. So when we have an area of high pressure inside the body, the air is forced out to this area of lower pressure. So again, this is all about pressure differences, and that's what the diaphragm muscle is doing. So when it's contracting, it creates an area of low pressure. There's less air in the lungs as this space gets bigger, so new air has to rush in. When the diaphragm relaxes, it creates a high pressure area inside the lungs, so air rushes out to go to this area of lower pressure. Okay? So if we just come back here, lungs work based on pressure differences. We just covered that. The lungs work not because the lungs themselves draw in air. So again, it's not your lungs that are expanding and drawing in air. The lungs work because of the pressure differences created by the diaphragm. So the diaphragm is what does all the work here. We have a little note in here that we already talked about, that the external intercostal muscles help as well. That's more in forced breathing. So when you take in a really deep breath or really force out the air. This last point says, as the diaphragm muscle contracts and flattens, the air pressure in the lungs decreases, which causes air to rush in. When the diaphragm relaxes and returns to its curved shape over here, the air pressure increases and the air rushes out. So that's basically how the diaphragm works. If you have any questions about that, let me know. We're going to create, because it says a demo here, we're going to create our own diaphragm at home. Hi everyone, it's me, Miss Graves. I'm in the ocean. I'm not. I'm in the classroom at school, and I wanted to show you guys a diaphragm demonstration today. So, as you can see here, I have all of my wonderful supplies. I've got some elastic bands, balloons, this empty water bottle, straw, tape, scissors. So these are all the sort of things that you need to do this. Again, if you don't have all this stuff at home, don't go out and buy it. You can just watch this and understand the demo. It's just something, if you are maybe bored at home, you can try it out so you understand pressure differences. So I'm going to work and show you all of the steps that you need to create your own lungs and diaphragm demonstration. So I have this small water bottle. I'm going to cut the bottom of the water bottle off. So I have this is my thoracic cavity, as some may call it. Okay, so that's step one. We'll get that out of the way. Here I'm going to attach one balloon to this straw. So I need to make sure that this is airtight. So I am going to tape it on here really, really well. Perfect. So if you can blow into the top of your straw and your balloon slightly fills with air, you did it. Okay, make sure that is locked in there nice and tight. So my next step, this needs to go into our thoracic cavity. So if this was our chest cavity, this is going to be our lungs. Typically you have 2 lungs. For this demonstration, you just have 1. So we'll put that into our thoracic cavity. And now we need to secure this. Sorry, I'm holding it up too high. We need to secure this so that this isn't moving around. I decided it might be super helpful actually to seal the lid so that we have kind of a vacuum created. Because again, we're going to make the pressure differences, so we need there to be no air flowing from other spaces in and out. So I'm taping the top of my water bottle to make sure that no extra air is getting in. And then I'll just poke a hole with this pencil, this handy dandy pencil right here. Good. Okay, so now let's try again. Ta-da! Finally. This is what your creation so far should look like. You should have your lung in your thoracic cavity with the, we'll call this the trachea maybe? I guess your trachea would be down here if there's a head attached to this. We're going to pretend the nasal cavity's here because that's where the air is going to come out. Okay, so after that you need to take a second balloon and you need to cut your balloon like so. Okay, so now what you're going to do is you're going to take this balloon and stretch it out so that your balloon can fit over top of this space. You might have to cut it so that it's a little bit more expanded. That's fine, there we go. And I'm going to put this over top of the, maybe. Okay, so I'm going to grab another balloon because I just wrecked this one. Sorry. Good thing I have extras. Hopefully you have extras too. So anyways, we're going to cut this again. Stretch out this balloon. So that it covers the bottom of our lung, or our thoracic cavity, pardon me. Okay, so you want to make sure if your balloon isn't sealed super tight, you need to make sure that it is a tight seal, okay? So if there is extra space at the bottom of your balloon, or if your balloon doesn't kind of latch on like mine has here, take some elastic bands, tape it up, make sure that this is tight against the bottom and there's no air going to get in, okay? So this is what we've created. Ta-da! Wonderful. We have this set of diaphragm. Let's see if it works. Okay, so I need to make mine a little bit tighter. What we are going to be doing with this is creating pressure differences. So once I get this organized, so if we're pretending that this right here is our diaphragm and this is part of our breathing tube, this is our lung in here. What we are going to do is pull on the bottom here and our balloon expands with air. When we push up, it collapses. Okay, so you can see this, fills with air, collapses. So why this is happening, this is similar to our lungs, right? So this is happening because we're creating pressure differences. So when, as long as everything is locked up and sealed tight, so there's no extra air getting in, what's happening right now, there is somewhat even pressure inside and outside of this thoracic cavity. When we pull on our diaphragm, there's more space in our thoracic cavity. So because there's an area of low pressure, air rushes in through this tube or through our straw and fills the balloon, okay? Hopefully yours does it a little bit better than mine. This balloon's getting a little bit, hopefully my seal is okay. There you go. So we can see here the balloon's filled with air. There was an area of low pressure, air rushed in, and then filled the balloon. So when the diaphragm relaxes, air rushes out of the lungs because there was high pressure inside of the balloon or lung, okay? So again, we have moderately or even pressure inside and outside of this balloon. As I pull down, our lung fills right up because of the low pressure, so air rushes in. When I collapse or relax our diaphragm here, air rushes out of the balloon. So this is just kind of a neat way so you can see the different pressure differences in your lungs.